I'm serious.
Yeah,
people view it that way, and that's
Yeah.
exactly what it is. Because like, if you can afford to pay and continue to pay for these fines, just like a parking
That's
ticket,
like a parking ticket.
Exactly.
Yeah, hey, I'm just paying to
Exactly.
park there.
Exactly.
Well, and I think that a lot of these laws are basically targeting the poor.
Exactly.
Absolutely, but that goes into the political side of everything. That unfortunately it's.
Well, it's interesting. I just read this week Donald Trump's son was recently fined for shooting some kind of goat, I think it was, that was endangered, okay? Now, that's an endangered species that he killed. If I hit, what was Pennsylvania's bird?
That bald eagle.
The bald eagle?
Or the bald, yeah. If I hit a bald eagle with my car by mistake, okay?
That won't happen.
What do you think okay.
You won't hit a bald eagle with your car.
If she
Unless
did,
If
car
I
can
kill the
fly.
bald eagle somehow, some way, what do you think the chances of me not doing jail time are?
I mean, who
you're
would know?
probably going to jail.
Oh, I'm probably going to jail, and I'm getting a fine that I can't afford.
Especially
And
now
you're
because
gonna
they
be the
made
poster
they
child
made
for
cruelty
what
to
not to
animals
do.
a felony now. They made cruelty to animals a felony
Good.
now. So if they find that you're at fault in this thing happening, then you're going to jail for a while because it's a felony.
That's another topic we can get
anything
into.
else,
Well,
though,
that's
is what
that's
I'm
just the
saying.
topic for later. That comes into where we're at now. Like that's where we're at now with things. Like you're going to jail for every little minute thing, and you're going to end up sitting there because nobody has the money to pay bail.
And the more extensive
Absolutely.
your record, the stronger the sentencings get too.
So, the major problem that faces prison reformers and administrators throughout history in general is the various reasons for imprisoning people usually conflict. Some people want to imprison people for one thing and kill them for another, and they couldn't decide on what was what. For example, numerous experts suggest that strict punishments and long prison sentences do not necessarily keep people from committing crimes. They believe that the threat of prison does not increase public safety, but that during periods such as the late 20th and early 21st centuries, when punishments became harsher and sentences became longer, the crime rates didn't decrease like they expected them to. Like they expected everybody to just slow down because they're going to get all this time, and it just didn't work. And they still haven't fixed it. Like we're still stuck at that point now where you get in trouble. In California, I still think they have the 3 strikes rule, don't they?
New York does.
New York does.
Yeah.
Where, like, it doesn't matter what you did. If it's your 3rd time getting in trouble, life.
Yep.
third felony.
But
3rd felony.
Third felony.
Third
Right.
felony. Some guy I just read,
But you can get TCAP in Lehigh County with that. Just by the way.
Now, I just read that some guy in I don't remember exactly where it was, but some guy was in jail for stealing like $7 in 1986, and he was serving a life term. Like,
Right.
things
in
like
Louisiana.
yeah.
You know what though?
Things like that is what we need to work on.
Well, that's and I think it was said earlier. We don't think about the consequences when we do the crime, right?
But nobody does.
It's supposed to be a deterrent, but it really isn't because nobody's thinking about it at the time that they're committing the crime. Even murder, like when you go, like no one's thinking, well, I'm going to go to jail for this. You're angry and you're in a brawl or whatever it is, a crime of passion or whatever.
Crime of passion.
It's not. I don't think it serves as a deterrent. So then you got to think, well, then what is the other reason for locking somebody up? And I have my opinion on that, but
It goes back to money.
it goes back to keeping the community
So like
safe.
they say too, like all right. So it costs money to put a person in prison, right? There's an annual cost to each prisoner's term, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, a lot of these prisons are privately owned, and a lot of that money gets funneled right back into somebody's pocket or back into the county if you're in a county system. A lot of county jails are owned by the county, so like they're owned by the judges of that county. So any money that does come back off.
No,
of
they're
it,
not. They're owned by the Department of Corrections. The State Department of Corrections is the authority of even local
over
jails.
local county jails.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
I'm gonna have to do some more research on that because I definitely read some stuff the other day that was talking about that. So I don't have the material in front of me, so I don't want to say for sure.
Now the cost and fines and stuff is payable to the county.
Right.
When you get out of jail, the room and board that you pay, that does go to the county. But it's overseen by the Department of Corrections, which is the state department.
I got you. This looks interesting over there.
Checking to see if stuff works in mid podcast.
I'm just making sure everything's good.
Yeah.
You don't have to stop.
In the United
No,
States,
it's all good.
So, in the United States, the use of prisons as a tool for confining and punishing criminals evolved during the 1700s. Religious-minded reformers during the period set out to improve the young Americans' republic by creating public schools and libraries. They also sought to aid fellow citizens in improving their morals, and that's where the first prisons came along. The philosophy behind it was that criminals would not only protect society, but redeem sinful wrongdoers. So, like, putting them in prison was supposed to redeem what they did and protect society from them. It wasn't originally made as a place to hold. Like, we weren't just holding people in jails until they went to court. Everything was taken care of, like, on the spot. You were sentenced, done.
Wait, so
Gone.
you were protecting those from?
They felt they were protecting people in society by putting people in prison that were doing things wrong. That was the original idea behind it, and to redeem them of their sins, because this whole country was formed around religion and religious structures. So it was all about redeeming yourself of sins. The people that were actually convicted of the crimes often faced imprisonment for long periods of time, or like public lashings in Pennsylvania. Like, they were publicly lashing people
It's like
as
being,
punishment.
being put in a stockades and all that shit.
Why did they stop that?
Oh my
Listen, let me
God.
tell you,
It's inhumane.
If that was the idea, like, if I knew I was going up against that, I probably would have thought a lot about a couple of the crimes. A couple.
I mean, I think people in jail should be in jail, but murderers and stuff like that should be there for life. Like crimes, like little crimes. Come on, that could be a whole nother topic. But
So,
all right, go ahead, Tony.
During his time, actually, William Penn, the founder of Pennsylvania, played a major role in getting society to treat criminals humanely. As a young man in Great Britain, Penn had become involved in the Quaker faith, which is a Protestant offshoot, which I believe haven't we now found out they were like, we consider them a cult now?
Are they a cult?
I don't know, but I know that they show up at the drug court now, and they serve coffee and cookies.
Is that
The
it?
Quakers do.
The Quakers
yeah.
do?
Wait, what?
That's weird.
There's a yeah, I'm serious. There's a Quaker faith that comes into drug court. They've been coming in for about 6 or 7 months, and they will bring coffee and cookies, and they talk to people, and they're just there for like support, because they like the idea of what they're trying to do at drug court.
So
That's
yeah,
cool.
so
Yeah.
Penn was originally drawn to the Quaker beliefs because of their tolerance and equality. They're really big on turning the other cheek, and just everybody is no good as the other man, and he really liked those ideas. So as governor and proprietor of Pennsylvania beginning in the 1680s, Penn created a society that promoted free enterprise, a free press, and a religious acceptance. His beliefs led him to guarantee citizens a trial by jury and to significantly modify English laws regarding criminal punishment, because everything was derived from coming over from England. Although English law listed about 200 crimes that would be punishable by the death penalty, Penn reserved that punishment for just 2 crimes in Pennsylvania, those crimes being murder and treason. He believed that confinement and labor were fair and effective punishments for criminals. So there was 200 crimes, and the only 2 that we kept were treason and murder.
But then somewhere along the way, over the generations, we've added like 15,000 more crimes.
What to the? Well, no, that was for the death penalty. This was for the death penalty.
Oh, that was just for the death penalty.
Just for the death
Okay,
penalty.
okay.
There was 2 crimes that
Okay.
he considered were that bad that you should be killed.
I think
I agree.
There was 200 in England, though.
right.
200. I'm really curious as to what those 200 crimes were now.
Probably anything.
You kick my dog, you're gonna die.
Yeah, right?
Did you
So-
steal my porridge and
Penn
drink
had
all
a
my
big
tea?
part. Penn had a big part in prison reform in the beginning. He actually created the first society for prison reform. The society was the Philadelphia Society for Alleviating the Miseries of Public Prisons. That was the actual name of it, and that was in the late 1600s, early 1700s
Wow.
in the United States.
And there still is the Pennsylvania Prison Society.
Yes, I know there is.
What amazes me right now even more is the fact that like I never heard of that until this moment. So like, why aren't things like this being talked about in public schools? Anyway, that sounds like another topic.
That does.
But
Might be talking about them. Are you sure you have a good memory from?
So this was it doesn't say, so it wasn't the first, but it was among the first of the prison reform organizations in the United States. The group developed the concept of penitentiaries and prisons based on the idea that those who commit the crime should be penitent and feel regret and sorrow for their misdeeds. So the Quakers believed that the prisoners must be given space to reflect, and so they could ask for forgiveness from God. Like, that was the idea of prison for them.
That's
like they
too
built
easy.
the first prison so that you could get away from society, have time to yourself, be able to reflect on your actions, and ask for God for forgiveness. That was their idea for prisons.
It makes
that kind of
sense.
sounds
Not
like
the worst
solitary
idea.
confinement in a way.
It does. It does sound like solitary confinement in a way. I think that this is, honestly, my personal thoughts is I believe that the prison system is a caveman system as of right now. It's something that we should completely wipe out and reform.
Oh God, yeah.
So what we were talking about before was the first prison ever in the United States. First prison in the United States was the Walnut Street Jail, built in Philadelphia in 1790. So
Not the one in Easton.
I was
not the
going to
one
say,
in
isn't
Easton.
Is it
Northampton
still- is it
County
still
on
there,
Walnut
you
Street?
know?
This is the first state penitentiary.
Is it still there in Walnut Street? You know?
Not
Probably
sure.
not.
Is that
Maybe-
the one they have the ghost tours at?
That's the Eastern.
Probably.
That's the Eastern State Penitentiary.
So the founders of the prison believed that inmates should be treated humanely and should repent in part through physical labor. The Walnut Street Jail created prison industries whereby convicts produced goods that were sold in the community outside the prison walls. So the prisoners actually made goods for people in the towns around them.
You know, they actually still do that in North Carolina.
Well, they kind of do that in Pennsylvania but it's within the prison. So, like, if you go to Pennsylvania and you go to prison, your underwear and your socks all say "made in a Pennsylvania state prison," and there's actually prisons that they make the underwear, they cut the socks, they sew the underwear, and they then sell it as Big House products, and they sell it to people off a commissary. So not only are you not getting paid to make their stuff, but they're making money off of the stuff that you're not being paid to make.
It's a money. You know what? They spend a lot of money housing that jail and electricity, feeding everybody.
They
so
charge
they have
you
to make,
for it.
Well, they charge you a small amount.
Right, they
because,
charge you a small amount.
What
right.
is it to incarcerate someone in Pennsylvania per year?
70,000, I think it might
Yeah, and it's actually, I think it's higher.
be. Might
than
be
that.
higher.
I have it somewhere.
Might be higher. Higher
It
now.
is
but
higher
it's,
than
it's
that.
a lot
but
of
they
money.
still charge you $10 a day, $12 a day.
That's $3,000 a year. That's a.
So, the Walnut Street Prison kind of set the standard for work-based recovery in prisons. Like they kind of set a standard for the rest of the prisons that were built, and other prisons started to adapt those same things. They offered differed significantly from the other prisons. At the jail, smaller cells were used and shared by fewer prisoners. The Walnut Street Jail also placed dangerous criminals in solitary confinement. In addition, it separately housed women and those in prison for being in debt or homeless. So if you were in debt or homeless, they put you in a different spot than the rest of the criminals because they understood that you were not on that level.
So I just pulled up some more information about this, about the Walnut Street Jail, and it was converted into a penitentiary in 1790.
Mm-hmm.
And although solitary confinement was the goal, overcrowding made it almost impossible. And after they realized that they couldn't just have one jail is when they started to build more jails. And it also, this jail in particular we were talking about, if it was still there or not, it was shut down in 1838.
Gotcha. One of the big important things that I think it's important to point out is that in these first prisons, the administrations almost always offered the prisoners full health care, education, and the opportunity for religious worship. And a lot of times, well, not so much in Pennsylvania, you don't see it, but from what I'm hearing in New Jersey, like, you don't have anything. They're not doing things for the prisoners anymore.
They don't have to.
Right, they don't have to, but the whole idea is to rehabilitate